I'll never forget the moment my dad looked me straight in the eye and said, "Apologize or leave." I had no idea what was going on, or why he was so furious with me. But it was the look in his eyes, the way his voice trembled with anger, that made me freeze. Because if I apologized, I was admitting to something I didn't do. And if I left, I knew everything would change forever. I wasn't prepared for what came next. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and tell us where you are listening. Your support means everything. It all started a couple of weeks ago, when something incredibly personal happened to me. It was the kind of thing you'd never think would come up in a family conversation, much less turn into the biggest fight of our lives. It all revolved around a stupid rumor, a moment of tension, and, of course, my sister. Her name's Emily. We've always had a complicated relationship, to say the least. I'm the older sibling by 3 years, but Emily's always had this way of getting what she wants. She's charming, she's quick-witted, and well, she's a little manipulative when she wants to be. But I never expected it would go this far. I remember the day everything changed. It was a Sunday afternoon, the kind of lazy weekend day when everyone's lounging around, trying to find something to do. Emily was at home from college, and I'd been visiting with my girlfriend at the time. Things were relaxed, quiet. Then, it all started. It began with a message from one of Emily's friends. I'd been sitting on the couch, scrolling through my phone, when I heard Emily's voice behind me. "Hey, can you help me with something? I've got a problem with my car." I turned, surprised. Emily rarely ever asked for help unless it was something she couldn't handle on her own. She was used to figuring things out herself, or at least that's what I thought. "Sure," I said, setting my phone down. "What's up?" Emily looked nervous, which made me pause. It wasn't like her to be anything less than confident. "Okay, well, I've been getting these weird messages on my phone. Like, some guy is stalking me or something. I don't know how to deal with it." She looked down, her fingers tapping nervously on her phone screen. It's really freaking me out. Did you tell Mom or Dad?" I asked, my mind immediately going into protective mode. She shook her head. "I haven't told them yet. I thought maybe you could help first. You're good with tech stuff, right? Maybe you could track it or figure out who it is." At the time, I didn't think much of it. I knew Emily had a tendency to dramatize things, but if she was really worried, I didn't want to brush it off. So, I took her phone and started looking through the messages. They seemed pretty harmless at first. A couple of weird texts, nothing that screamed danger. Still, I knew I had to tell our parents. "I'll let Mom and Dad know about this," I said, handing her phone back. "They need to know in case it's serious." But as I was about to leave her room, Emily stopped me. "Actually, don't. I don't want them to freak out." That should have been my first red flag. But, being the older brother who always tried to keep the peace, I agreed to keep it between us. I figured I'd try to get to the bottom of it and find out if it was just some dumb prank. The next day, everything went south. I was in the kitchen making breakfast when I overheard my parents talking. Their voices were raised, but I couldn't make out what they were saying. I had a bad feeling in the pit of my stomach, so I walked down the hall to their room. "Dad, what's going on?" I asked, sticking my head through the doorway. My dad's face went pale. He looked at my mom, who seemed just as confused. And then, without missing a beat, Emily walked in, holding her phone in front of her. "Are you going to tell them, or should I?" she asked, her tone sharp and cold. "Are we going to talk about how my brother has been sending me these creepy texts?" I froze. My heart pounded in my chest, and suddenly everything felt like it was spinning. "What?" I asked, my voice shaking. "What are you talking about?" Emily showed my parents the texts. But something wasn't right. I hadn't sent them. I didn't even know about half the things she was saying I'd said. Some of the messages were downright weird. Stuff about showing up at her school or sneaking into her room. Are you serious? I said, stepping forward. I didn't send those, Em. You're lying. My dad's face hardened. Why would your sister lie about something like this? Why are you so defensive? I couldn't believe what was happening. My mind raced as I tried to figure out what was going on, but the more I tried to explain, the more my dad seemed convinced I was guilty. And Emily, she just stood there, quietly watching it all unfold. You have two choices, my dad said, his voice dangerously calm. Apologize or leave. I wanted to scream, to demand answers. But something in my gut told me that this wasn't just about the messages. It was about Emily's game. And I had no idea how deep it went. The next few days were hell. My parents barely spoke to me, and every time Emily walked into a room, the tension grew thicker. I was a prisoner in my own home, unable to convince anyone that I hadn't done what Emily was accusing me of. But I wasn't about to give up. I knew I had to find proof. I started digging through my phone and looking at old texts, trying to piece together what had happened. And then, it hit me. I checked my phone records. The times the creepy texts were supposedly sent didn't line up with where I was at the time. I had been at work, at the gym, or even just hanging out with friends when those texts were sent. But Emily had somehow made it look like they came from me. That's when I realized it. Emily had framed me. I confronted her late one night when everyone else was asleep. You're lying, Emily, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. You set me up. Her eyes flickered, and for the first time in days, she seemed nervous. I don't know what you're talking about, she muttered, trying to brush me off. But I pressed her, showing her the phone records, the times I was out when those texts were sent. You framed me, and you've been playing everyone. You manipulated them into believing I did something I didn't do. She didn't respond immediately, but then her shoulders slumped and she looked up at me. I didn't think it would go this far, she said softly, the coldness in her voice replaced with guilt. I thought maybe you'd get in trouble and I could finally get Dad's attention. I stared at her in disbelief. That's what this was about. You tried to destroy my life because you wanted Dad's attention. She nodded, her eyes brimming with tears. I'm sorry. I was stupid. I didn't mean for it to get this bad. It was the strangest feeling. I wanted to be angry, but a part of me understood. Emily had always been desperate for validation, always craving that approval that seemed to go to me, the older sibling. But this was too far. The next morning, everything came crashing down. As soon as our parents heard the truth, they confronted Emily. There were tears, a lot of yelling, and a tense silence that lasted for what felt like hours. And then, in front of everyone, my sister admitted it all. She framed me. She apologized to me, but it felt empty. And just like that, everything changed. My dad looked at me, and I could see the regret in his eyes. I should have believed you from the start. I'm sorry. I didn't know what to say or how to feel. But in that moment, I knew one thing for sure. Emily and I would never be the same again.